The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had stood for 12,000 years. It was built on a world called Nexus Prime, a planet chosen because it belonged to no one. 17 different species had come together to build something wonderful. They created laws. They created peace. They created a civilization that spread across 3 arms of the galaxy. And for the past 100 years, humanity had been part of this family. Ambassador Laura Finch stood in the center of the hall. She was a tall woman with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind her, a large screen showed images that made her heart burn with anger. The images showed a human colony called New Helsinki. 8 million people had lived there, families, children, workers, dreamers. Now there was nothing left, but smoke and ash and silence. The Vectari attacked without warning, Laura said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. They used weapons that are banned by galactic law. They targeted hospitals first. They targeted schools. And they broadcast the destruction to their home planet as entertainment.
Oh.
The Vectari delegate was a tall creature that looked like an insect. His name was High Speaker Crix. He had 4 arms and large black eyes that showed no emotion. When he spoke, his voice sounded like clicking stones. The humans built their colony on territory we claimed 300 years before they learned to make fire, Crix said. We simply took back what was ours. Laura felt Admiral Colin Marsh move beside her. The old military man had lost his daughter on New Helsinki. His granddaughter, too. He said nothing, but Laura could feel his pain like heat from a fire. We demand justice, Laura said to the council. We demand punishment for the Vectari. We demand payment for the families who lost everything. We demand that those who gave the orders be handed over to face trial. The hall became very quiet. Laura watched the other delegates. She had spent 20 years learning to read alien faces. She knew their expressions. She knew their secrets. And what she saw now made her feel sick. High Chancellor Voss was the leader of the Teleran people. His skin glowed with soft colors that showed his emotions. Right now, his skin was gray and neutral. He was hiding something. The council understands the tragedy of New Helsinki, Voss said slowly. However, this territory dispute is very old. It began before humanity joined us. The Vectari claim has some merit. We propose a committee to study the matter. They will report back in 18 months. 18 months. Laura could not believe what she was hearing. 8 million dead, and they wanted to form a committee. What about the war crimes? She asked. What about the banned weapons? Regrettable, Voss said. But the evidence is not clear. The Vectari say their weapons were legal. Laura looked around the Great Hall. She looked at beings she had worked with for years. Some of them looked sad. Some looked bored. Some looked secretly happy. The Kellish delegate would not look at her. The Morvani delegate was pretending to read his notes. And in that moment, Laura finally understood. Humanity was useful to the galaxy. Humans were good at building things, good at fixing things, good at fighting when fighting was needed. But humanity was not really part of the family. When the price of justice meant fighting a major power, when standing with humans meant making powerful enemies, the galaxy would find reasons to look away. Laura turned to Admiral Marsh. Their eyes met. A decision passed between them without words. She faced the council one last time. Then humanity has nothing more to say at this table. Chancellor Voss looked confused. His skin flickered with uncertain colors. Ambassador Finch, please. Let us discuss this like civilized beings. We have been discussing for 100 years. Laura picked up her documents. She picked up the ceremonial staff that marked her as ambassador. She picked up the small gifts that other species had given humanity over the decades. We joined this council because we believed in it. We believed that civilization meant something. We believed that law meant something. We believed that when innocent people were murdered, justice would follow. She began walking toward the great doors of the chamber. Ambassador, this is not proper, Voss called after her. You cannot simply leave. Laura stopped at the door. She did not turn around. Watch us. The doors closed behind her with a sound like thunder. Outside the chamber, Laura found Admiral Marsh waiting. His face was hard as stone. It is done, she said. I know. The old admiral looked at the ceiling, at the beautiful alien artwork that decorated every surface. My granddaughter loved looking at the stars. She wanted to meet all the different species. She thought the galaxy was wonderful. I am sorry, Colin. Do not be sorry. His eyes found hers. Be ready. Laura nodded. The president already knows. The orders are going out as we speak. Somewhere deep in space, in shipyards that no one knew existed, machines began to wake up. Factories that had been sleeping for years started to hum with power. Men and women who had trained in secret for this moment received messages on devices that officially did not exist. Back in the council chamber, the delegates were talking in worried voices. What just happened? The Kellish ambassador asked. The humans are upset, High Speaker Crix clicked dismissively. They will calm down. They always do. They are a young species. They have tantrums like children. I'm not so sure, Chancellor Voss said. His skin was dark with worry. I have worked with Laura Finch for many years. I have never seen her look like that. Like what? The Morvani delegate asked. Voss searched for the right word. In all his centuries of life, he had seen many things. He had seen wars begin and end. He had seen empires rise and fall. But the look in Laura Finch's eyes was something new. Final, he said at last. She looked final. Like someone who has made a decision, they will never change. The Kellish ambassador made a worried sound. Should we go after her? Try to talk? I think, Voss said slowly, that the time for talking has passed. It was more right than he knew. Across the galaxy, on a small blue planet called Earth, a message was being sent to every human world. Every human station, every human ship. The message was simple. It contained only 3 words. The table is empty. Those who received it understood. Those who received it had been waiting. And those who received it began to move. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They thought humanity would calm down. They thought the humans would come back to the table eventually, ready to compromise, ready to accept whatever scraps of justice the council offered. They were wrong. The humans were not coming back. The humans were going somewhere else entirely, and when they returned, it would not be as diplomats. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Within 2 days of Laura Finch walking out of the council chamber, humanity began to disappear. Not physically. Not yet. But in every other way that mattered. Commander Daniel Price sat in the control room of Waste Station Harmony. It was the largest station that humans had ever built in neutral space. For 50 years, it had been a place where different species came together. Humans helped everyone here. They fixed ships. They healed the sick. They fed the hungry. They asked for nothing in return. Those days were over now. All humanitarian missions had been called home, his communications officer said. The medical ships are leaving. Our doctors are packing their bags across 6 different star systems. Daniel nodded. He had expected this. Sir, we are receiving emergency calls from the Pelion frontier. Their farming computers have crashed. They need food shipments, or millions will starve. Daniel remembered the Pelion situation well. Human engineers had warned them 6 months ago that their systems were failing. The Pelions had ignored the warning. They thought they knew better. Send them to the Teleron Consortium, Daniel said. Humanity is no longer helping. His officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, the Tellerans cannot deliver food fast enough. They do not have our ships. Many Pelions will die. Daniel closed his eyes. He thought about New Helsinki. He thought about 8 million humans who had died while the galaxy watched and did nothing. I know, he said quietly. But this is not our choice. They made this choice when they decided our dead did not matter. Same thing was happening everywhere. Human engineers walked away from projects they had been building for decades. Human teachers closed their schools on alien worlds. Human merchants canceled business deals worth more money than most planets would see in a century. On the Kellish homeworld, human trader named Gregory Cole met with his business partners one final time. The Kellish were furry creatures with big ears and clever minds. They had been trading with humans for 80 years. Cannot be serious, the Kellish trade minister said. His fur was standing on end with worry. The communication network depends on your people. Without human workers, we will lose a third of our ability to talk to other systems within a year. Gregory shrugged. Then I suggest you train your own workers. We gave you all the instructions years ago. Your instructions make no sense to us. Your way of building things is too strange. That did not seem to matter when you refused to vote for sanctions against the Vectari. The minister's ears went flat against his head. We did not vote against you. We simply did not vote at all. You did not vote for us either. Gregory stood up and put on his coat. Goodbye, Minister. It has been good business. The news networks across the galaxy were filled with confused reports. Human withdrawal continues across all sectors, a Morvani broadcaster said. Despite many requests from council members, the human government on Earth remains silent. Trade experts warn of serious economic problems if this continues. The real fear started when people understood what was happening with the military. Admiral Patricia Dunn commanded the human ships in the Joint Defense Fleet. This was the combined military force of all 17 species. It had kept the peace for 8,000 years. Every species contributed ships and soldiers, but humans had become the largest part of the force. Everyone agreed that humans were very good at fighting. This was one of the things that made other species nervous about them. Patricia received her orders on a quiet Tuesday. She gathered her captains in a secure room. 47 commanders of 47 warships. They were the best fighters in the galaxy. Starting now, she said, all human ships are leaving the Joint Defense Fleet. We are going home. Captain Kevin Moore commanded the destroyer Resilience. He was a young man with a scarred face from too many battles. Ma'am, what about the Koroth invasion? We are the main force stopping them, not anymore. The Tellarans cannot hold that area alone. Their ships are not built for long fights. It is not our problem anymore. The captains looked at each other. Some seemed relieved. Others seemed worried. A few had a hungry look in their eyes, a look that had been growing since they heard about New Helsinki. The Koroth will push deeper into civilized space, Captain Moore said. Millions of Tellarans live in those border colonies. Patricia leaned forward. When our colonies were burning, Captain, where were the Tellarans? Where was the Joint Fleet? She let the silence hang in the air. Pack your things. We leave at dawn. The Tellaran High Command panicked. Within hours, they were sending desperate messages begging the humans to come back. They offered better trade deals. They offered formal apologies. They offered everything they could think of. Earth's only answer was silence. The weeks passed. The Koroth pushed deeper into Tellaran space. Without human ships to stop them, the invasion became unstoppable. Colony after colony fell. Refugees fled in all directions. The council held emergency meetings. But no one knew what to do. Other problems began to appear. The Morvani discovered that their food production systems, designed by human engineers, were breaking down. The Morvani technicians who ran these systems had never actually learned how they worked. We always assumed the humans would be available to help, the Morvani agricultural minister admitted. We never thought we needed to understand their methods ourselves. The Kelish discovered that their banking systems, which used human security programs, were having strange problems. Nothing too serious at first, just small errors that grew larger week by week. No one could prove that humans were causing these problems. But no one could prove they were not, and through it all, humanity said nothing, did nothing, simply waited. Chancellor Voss called another emergency meeting of the council. We must do something, he said. His skin was dark with fear. The galaxy is falling apart. Systems we have depended on for decades are failing. The Koroth grows stronger every day, and humanity sits in silence while we suffer. What would you have us do? The Kelish ambassador asked. Beg? We have been begging for months. Perhaps we should give them what they want, the Morvani delegate suggested. Justice for New Helsinki. Punishment for the Vectari. High Speaker Crix clicked his mandibles angrily. The hegemony will not accept punishment. We did nothing wrong. The humans built on our territory. We removed them. This is the law of nature. The law of nature, Voss repeated slowly. Yes, I suppose it is. He looked around the chamber at his fellow council members. He thought about everything humanity had done for the galaxy over the past century. All the help they had given, all the problems they had solved, all the times they had asked for nothing in return except friendship and respect. And he thought about what the council had given them when they needed help most. Nothing, I fear, Voss said quietly. That we are about to learn what the law of nature truly means. Far away, in the darkness between stars, human ships gathered in places no one knew existed. New ships. Strange ships. Ships built in secret over decades, waiting for a day that humanity had hoped would never come. But hope was a luxury now. Hope had died with New Helsinki. Only vengeance remained. 6 months had passed since humanity left the table. The galaxy looked very different now. The Korath invasion had become the Korath occupation. 3 Teleran colonies had fallen completely. The Joint Defense Fleet, suddenly missing its best ships and crews, could barely maintain basic patrol routes. Pirates grew bold. Trade routes became dangerous. The peace that had lasted for thousands of years was cracking like old glass. But the Korath were the least of anyone's worries. On the bridge of the human warship, Unconquered, Admiral Marcus Webb studied intelligence reports. The Unconquered was not like any ship the galaxy had seen before. She was huge, almost a kilometer long. She carried weapons that broke at least 17 different treaties. Treaties that humanity no longer cared about. The Vectari are building up their forces, his intelligence officer reported. They think we ran away because we were scared of them. They are getting ready to attack more human worlds? Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. And the Council, still sending diplomatic messages. Chancellor Voss has personally asked for talks 4 times this week. Delete them without reading. The Unconquered floated in deep space, far from any known star system. She was part of a fleet that officially did not exist. 300 ships, all built in secret shipyards hidden in places the galaxy did not know about. Humanity had spent a century being the good neighbor. They had followed every rule. They had helped everyone who asked. They had trusted in galactic civilization to protect them. That humanity was gone now. It had burned to ashes, along with New Helsinki, on Earth. The transformation was even more dramatic. Secretary of Defense Ruth Patterson stood in an underground base beneath the old city of Geneva. Screens surrounded her, showing views from across human space. Shipyards that used to build merchant vessels now built warships. Factories that made consumer goods now made weapons. Universities that studied peaceful subjects now developed technologies that would have horrified their founders. We are at 117% of planned production, her assistant reported. We will have full fleet strength in 18 months. Not fast enough, Ruth said. Push harder. Go faster, ma'am. The workers are already doing double shifts. They are exhausted. Then give them triple shifts. Her assistant hesitated. People are willing, but their bodies have limits. The economic cost alone is enormous. Ruth turned to face him. She was a small woman with gray hair and hard eyes. Eyes that had seen too much. Do you remember New Helsinki? Of course. Do you remember how it felt? Watching our cities burn while the galaxy talked about committees and territorial claims? The assistant nodded silently. That is what drives us now. That is what pushes us forward. Ruth looked back at her screens. Rage does not get tired. Grief does not need to rest. And we have plenty of both, across the galaxy. Other species were starting to understand how much they had depended on humanity. The Morvani learned first. Their entire food system had been designed by human engineers. Human computers ran it. Human methods controlled it. When things started to break, the Morvani discovered that their own people had never learned how anything actually worked. They had just pushed buttons and trusted the humans to keep everything running. We assumed they would always be there. The agricultural minister admitted in a leaked message. We never bothered to learn their ways because we never thought they would leave. Now crops were failing. Harvests were being lost. Millions faced hunger because no one knew how to fix the machines that humans had built. The Kellish had similar problems. Their banks, their communications, their transportation networks, All of it ran on human-designed systems. And all of it was slowly breaking down. Strange errors appeared in their financial records. Small amounts of money disappeared, then reappeared, then disappeared again. No one could explain it. No one could stop it. And the Kulish economy, the engine of galactic trade, began to stumble. Is it sabotage? One Kelish official asked during an emergency meeting. We cannot prove anything, another answered. The problems look like accidents, but they started exactly when the humans left. Could they really be doing this from so far away? Silence answered that question. The truth was that no one knew what humans were capable of anymore. The Vectari, meanwhile, grew bolder. They saw human withdrawal as proof of weakness. Their propaganda broadcasts showed Vectari warriors standing on the ruins of human outposts. High Speaker Crix gave speeches about how the great hegemony had driven away the human infestation. They are prey animals, Crix announced to his people. They fled before our superior strength. The hegemony will cleanse their territory of this vermin. Soon, there will be no humans left to trouble us. This speech was broadcast everywhere. It played on every human ship, every human station, every human world. Admiral Marcus Webb watched it in the command center of the Unconquered. His officers stood, Aro, and him, silent and still. When the speech ended, Marcus turned to his communications officer. Send a reply. One word only, sir. Soon, that single word spread through Vectari intelligence like wildfire. What did it mean? Was it a threat? A promise? A joke? The Vectari military began to worry. They sent scouts to find the human fleet. The scouts found nothing. Human space seemed empty except for defensive forces around their core worlds. They're hiding, High Speaker, Crix declared, cowering in their holes like the animals they are. But one of his advisors, an old warrior named Counselor Drask, was not so sure. We have not found their fleet, Drask said carefully. But we also have not found evidence that they destroyed it or decommissioned it. Those ships are somewhere most elevated. And if they are not where we can see them, that means they do not want to be seen. You suggest they are planning an attack? I suggest that we do not actually know what they are planning. And that worries me more than any attack. Crix dismissed these concerns. The Vectari had never been defeated. Their military was the strongest in the galaxy. What could one young species do against 3,000 years of Vectari supremacy? He would learn the answer soon enough. In the darkness between stars, the human fleet grew larger every day. Ships that should not exist. Weapons that should not be possible. Crews trained for a war that the galaxy thought was over before it began. Secretary Patterson sent regular updates to President Samuel Knox on Earth. The president was a former history professor. He had written books about peace and diplomacy. He had believed in talking instead of fighting. New Helsinki had burned everything he believed in. How long? He asked during one of their meetings. 6 more months until we are ready for full operations. But we can begin limited strikes sooner if needed. Knox looked at the reports on his desk. Production numbers. Fleet strength. Casualty estimates. What about innocent people? He asked. There are billions of beings in the target area who had nothing to do with New Helsinki. We have planned for that. We will give warnings. Many will leave. Some will not. Patterson did not answer immediately. This was the question that haunted her every night. Too many, she finally said. But fewer than died at New Helsinki. And far fewer than will die if we do nothing and the Vectari continue their expansion. Knox closed his eyes. He thought about all the history he had studied. All the wars. All the suffering. All the times that good people had done terrible things because they saw no other choice. Prepare the fleet, he said. We strike when ready. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They thought the storm had passed. They thought humanity had accepted its place. They were about to learn how wrong they were, 1 year after the destruction of New Helsinki. The Vectari High Command received news that would change. Galactic history forever. Intelligence. Officer Vrax brought the report directly to High Speaker Crix. His legs were shaking with a fear he could not explain. Something about the data, made his entire body feel cold. "Most elevated," Vrax said, bowing low. "Our deep space sensors have found something strange near the palace region." Crix barely looked at the report. "What kind of strange?" "Ships, most elevated. Human ships. We know about the human ships. They're gathered around their home systems, hiding from us like frightened animals. These ships are not from their known fleet." Brock sent the sensor data to the main display. "They are different." Crix finally looked at the screen. What he saw made his mandibles stop clicking. The ships emerging from the darkness were huge, bigger than anything the hegemony had ever built. Their shapes were unfamiliar, their energy signatures unlike anything in the Vectari database. And there were hundreds of them. Hundreds and hundreds, spreading across the darkness of space, like a swarm of angry insects. "This is impossible," Crix said slowly. "They could not have built such a fleet in secret. We would have seen the factories. We would have detected the energy usage. And yet there they are, most elevated." Crix felt something he had not experienced in 50 years. A cold fear running through his blood. A feeling that something terrible was about to happen. Call the War Council now. The same scene was playing out across the galaxy. Long-range sensors on a dozen worlds detected the human fleet. Everyone saw the same impossible thing. Ships that should not exist, built by a species that should not have been able to hide them. On the Teleron homeworld, Chancellor Voss stared at his tactical display with skin that had turned pale gray. "How?" he whispered. "How could they hide this from everyone?" His military advisor, an ancient Teleran named Counselor Venn, shook her head slowly. "They lived among us for 100 years. They learned our systems. They learned our weaknesses. They learned where we looked and where we did not look. Surely someone would have noticed. We always wondered why humans insisted on keeping their own separate sensor networks, their own communication systems. We thought it was cultural stubbornness. We thought they were just being difficult. And now I think it was planning. Very careful, very patient planning." Voss turned away from the display. His mind raced through possibilities, looking for solutions. Can we reach out to them? Try to talk? Try to stop whatever they are about to do. "We have been trying to talk for an entire year, Chancellor. They have not responded to a single message, and we must try harder. This fleet, if it attacks the hegemony, could destroy the entire galactic order. Trillions of lives could be affected." Counselor Venn made a sound that was almost like bitter laughter. "Chancellor, I do not think they care about the galactic order anymore. I think they have decided that the galactic order failed them. And when humans decide something, they tend to follow through on Earth." Secretary Patterson watched the same fleet movements with grim satisfaction. "Phase 3 is proceeding. Exactly as planned," she reported to the Council of War. "All ships will be in position within 3 days." President Knox sat at the head of the table. His face was hard as stone. All the kindness that had once been there was gone, burned away by grief and anger. "What about civilians in the target area?" he asked. "We have removed all human personnel from a wide zone around the Vectari systems. We have also sent warnings through unofficial channels. Many alien civilians have chosen to leave. Some have stayed. How many are staying?" Patterson looked at her notes. This was the number she hated most. "If everything goes according to plan, we estimate 17 million non-combatant casualties." The room became very quiet. 17 million people who had done nothing wrong. Merchants, workers, families, children, beings who had simply been born in the wrong place at the wrong time. They had a choice, Admiral Marcus Webb said through the communications link from his ship. They could have left. Many did. Those who stayed made their decision. Some of them could not leave, Knox said. Some were too poor. Some were too sick. Some had nowhere else to go. 8 million humans had nowhere to go either, Webb replied. They did not choose to die. They did not get warnings. They simply woke up one morning and died because the Vectari decided they were inconvenient. Knox closed his eyes. This was the burden of leadership. The weight of impossible choices. He had studied history his entire life. He knew where this path led. He knew how easily justified anger became unjustified cruelty. But he also knew what happened when aggressors faced no punishment. What happened when killers learned that killing was free? What happened when the peaceful chose peace at any cost? "Begin Phase 3, he said, deep in space. The human fleet started to move. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of the Unconquered, watching the stars streak past as his ship entered faster than light travel. Around him, 1,200 warships followed in perfect formation. Each one carried weapons that could crack planets. Each one was crewed by men and women who had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not come back. Admiral, his second in command, said, "We are receiving a final message from Earth. Read it. It says, remember New Helsinki. Remember why we fight, and remember that mercy is for those who showed mercy first." Webb nodded slowly. He looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. He saw anger there. He saw grief. He saw a cold determination that reminded him of sharpened steel. "All ships," he said, opening a channel to the entire fleet. "This is Admiral Webb. We are entering the final phase. In 48 hours, we will arrive at the Vectari home system." He paused, letting his words sink in. "For 1 year, we have been silent. For 1 year, we have prepared. For 1 year, we have listened to the Vectari call us prey animals and cowards and vermin. Today, that year ends." He could feel the attention of 1,200 ships focused on his words. "We do not come as diplomats. We do not come as negotiators. We come as judgment. We come as consequence. We come as the answer to a simple question. What happens when you burn 8 million humans and expect no response?" He straightened his uniform. "The galaxy is watching. Let us show them what humanity really is. Let us show them why our ancestors survived ice ages and plagues and wars that lasted generations. Let us show them that the patient ones, the quiet ones, the ones who try peace first, are not weak." His voice dropped to a cold whisper. "Let us show them what they should have feared from the beginning." The fleet accelerated toward Vectari space and across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched their sensor screens with growing dread. The humans were coming, and they were bringing the storm with them. The Vectari home system had never been invaded. In 3,000 years of war and conquest, no enemy had ever reached their sacred worlds. The hegemony was feared across the galaxy. Their warriors were legendary. Their weapons were the most advanced that money could buy. None of it mattered. High Speaker Crix stood in the command center of the orbital fortress above, Vectorus Prime, through the massive windows. He could see his beautiful homeworld below, covered in the cities of his people. Above him, the defense grid hummed with power. Around him, his officers worked frantically at their stations, and beyond all of it, the human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like ghosts appearing from the darkness, ship after ship after ship. They filled the tactical display until individual vessels became just a wall of hostile red light. "How many?" Crix managed to ask. 1,200 combat ships, his tactical officer reported. His voice was shaking. "Plus support vessels. Plus weapons we cannot identify. Launch everything. All fighters. All interceptors. Activate every defense system we have. Call the home fleet back immediately. Most elevated, the home fleet is 18 hours away. They cannot return in time." Crix watched the human formation settle into attack position. They moved with perfect coordination, like a single organism, rather than 1,000 separate ships. They made no demands. They sent no messages. They simply waited. "What are they doing?" someone asked. "They want us to see," Crix realized. "They want us to understand what is about to happen. They want us to feel fear before the end." On the bridge of the Unconquered, Admiral Marcus Webb observed the same situation from the other side. "All ships report ready," his flag captain announced. "Then we begin." Webb opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Webb. You know why we are here. You know what was done to our people. You know what justice demands?" He paused. "No mercy for those who showed none. No negotiation with those who murdered millions. No survivors among those who bear weapons against us. This is what happens when you burn human worlds and expect to live in peace. He closed the channel. Execute. What followed was not a battle. It was not even a war. It was an execution. The Vectari defense grid was the most advanced in the galaxy. It lasted for minutes against weapons it had never been designed to fight. Human ships phased through defensive barriers using technology that should have been impossible. Human weapons struck with precision that made Vectari targeting systems look like toys. The orbital fortresses fell one by one. Massive structures that had taken centuries to build were torn apart in minutes. The interceptor swarms that had terrified the galaxy for generations were swept aside like dust before a storm. The Vectari navy arrived piecemeal as ships raced back from across the Empire. Each one was destroyed before it could join any kind of defensive formation. Each one faced the same impossible odds and suffered the same inevitable defeat. High Speaker Crix died when human marines breached his command. Fortress. His last transmission, broadcast across the entire hegemony, showed him facing a squad of armored humans in the ruins of his throne room. Blue blood leaked from a dozen wounds. His mandibles were cracked and broken. His magnificent robes were torn and burned. But he still stood, because a High Speaker of the Vectari hegemony did not kneel. "Why?" he asked. His voice was weak, but still proud. "We are a proud people. We only did what the strong have always done to the weak. This is how the galaxy has always worked." The Marine commander stepped forward. Her face was hidden behind a smooth helmet that showed no expression. When she spoke, her voice was calm and cold. Now, that is exactly why. Her weapon fired once. Across the galaxy, billions watched the fall of the hegemony in stunned silence. The Tellarans watched from their council chambers. Chancellor Voss could not look away from the destruction, even though every part of him wanted to. His skin had gone completely white with horror. "By the eternal stars," he whispered, "what have we created?" The Kellish watched from their trading centers. Suddenly, they were very aware of how scattered and defenseless their colonies were. They thought about every unkind word they had ever said about humans. They wondered if humans remembered those words too. The Morvani watched from their agricultural worlds. They remembered every complaint they had dismissed, every human concern they had ignored, every time they had assumed humans would simply accept poor treatment because they were new to galactic society. Everyone watched. Everyone understood. The humans had not run away from the galactic table because they were weak. They had left because the table no longer served them. Because they had decided that the rules only mattered if everyone followed them. Because they had learned that this galaxy would never truly accept them as equals, so they had stopped asking to be accepted. They had decided to be feared. Instead, 3 weeks after the fall of the Vectari hegemony, Ambassador Laura Finch returned to the Galactic Council chamber. She walked alone through the great doors, past the ancient statues, past the memorials to treaties that now seemed very fragile. The chamber was completely full. Every species was represented. Every seat was occupied. But this time, no one looked at her with dismissal or boredom or secret amusement. They looked at her. With terror, Laura took her place at the human podium. She looked out at the assembled delegates. Beings she had once considered colleagues, maybe even friends. 1 year ago, she said, I stood in this chamber and asked for justice. I was denied. She let the silence stretch. So humanity found justice on its own. Ambassador Chancellor Voss said very carefully, the Council recognizes the validity of human concerns. We are prepared to discuss reparations, formal apologies, new security treaties. Whatever humanity requires, discuss, Laura repeated. Yes, you are very good at discussion. What does humanity want? The Kellish delegate asked. His voice was barely a whisper. Laura smiled. It was not the diplomatic smile she had worn for 20 years. This smile was older, harder, more honest. We want you to remember, she said. We want you to remember this moment, this feeling, every time you think about whether human lives matter. Every time you consider looking the other way when someone commits murder. Every time you tell yourselves that the newcomers, the outsiders, the different ones, do not deserve the same protection as everyone else. She gathered her things, preparing to leave once more. "Wait," Voss called out. "Are you leaving again?" Laura stopped. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether this council is ready to be what it always claimed to be. A place where civilization actually means something. Where law actually protects everyone." She looked around the chamber at every frightened face. "We will be watching. We will be waiting. And if you fail us again," she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. The galaxy understood now. The galaxy had learned a lesson that humanity had always known. It's written in blood across their entire history. The patient ones. The quiet ones. The ones who played by the rules and trusted in civilization. They were not weak. They were hoping. They were giving peace every possible chance. But when peace failed, when justice was denied, when the strong destroyed the weak without consequence, those patient, quiet ones became something else entirely. They became the thing that other species whispered about in dark corners. They became the nightmare that kept rulers awake at night. They became the answer to a question the galaxy should never have asked. They became dread, and the galaxy would never forget it.